Admiral Kekstar stood on the bridge of his command station, looking out at the stars through the massive viewing screen. His blue-scaled hands gripped the metal railing as he watched the peaceful space around Border Station Omega-7. For 50 years, he had guarded this edge of the Zephyrian Empire. Nothing exciting ever happened here. That changed when the alarm started screaming. "Admiral!" Commander Velsha rushed to his side, her yellow eyes wide with fear. "We have a problem." "A big one." Kekstar turned to face his tactical officer. Velsha had been with him for 20 years. She never panicked about anything. If she was scared, something was very wrong. "What is it?" he asked. "An unknown ship has appeared at the edge of our space," she said. "It's moving fast, very fast, and it's not responding to our calls." Kekstar walked to the main control panel. The screen showed a dot moving through space toward their territory. The numbers next to it made his blood run cold. "This speed reading is wrong," he said. "Check the sensors." "I already did, sir." 3 times. The ship is moving at impossible speeds. No known vessel can travel this fast. The Admiral stared at the screen. In his 50 years of service, he had seen many strange things, but nothing like this. "Show me the ship," he ordered, the main screens to show a closer view of the unknown vessel. Kekstar had never seen anything like it. The ship was not very big, maybe the size of a small warship, but its shape was all wrong. It had sharp angles and strange lines that hurt his eyes to look at. The metal it was made from reflected light in ways that made no sense. "What kind of ship is this?" he asked. "We don't know, sir," Velsha replied. "It's not in any of our databases. The computer can't even identify what it's made of." More alarms started going off. Other officers ran to their stations, their voices rising in panic. "Sir, the ship is heading straight for our core worlds," called out Lieutenant Zixpal from the navigation station. "If it keeps this course, it will reach planet Zephyr Prime in less than 2 days." Kekstar felt his heart sink. Planet Zephyr Prime was the capital of their empire. Over 10 billion Zephyrians lived there, including the Emperor himself. "Have you tried to contact them?" he asked. "Yes, sir. We've been sending messages on all frequencies for the last hour. They don't answer. They don't even slow down." The Admiral walked back to the viewing screen. The unknown ship was getting closer. Even from this distance, he could see that something was wrong with the space around it. The stars seemed to bend and twist near the vessel, as if reality itself was being stretched. "Get me the Emperor," he ordered. "He needs to know about this." "Sir," Velsha said quietly, "there's something else. The ship's energy readings are off the charts. Whatever powers that thing, it's beyond anything we understand." Kekstar nodded grimly. He had fought in many battles during his long career. He had seen the Empire's enemies try many different weapons and tactics. But this was different. This unknown ship felt dangerous in a way he couldn't explain. A few minutes later, the communication screen lit up with the image of Emperor Zixthul. The ruler of the Zephyrian Empire looked tired and annoyed at being woken up in the middle of his sleep cycle. "This better be important, Admiral," the Emperor said. "It is, Your Majesty. We have an unknown vessel approaching our space. It refuses to communicate and appears to be hostile." The Emperor's expression changed from annoyance to concern. "Show me." Kekstar had the tactical display sent to the Emperor's screen. For a long moment, the ruler was silent as he studied the data. "This is impossible," the Emperor finally said. "No ship can move that fast. Are you sure your sensors are working correctly?" "Yes." "Your Majesty, we've checked everything multiple times." The Emperor was quiet for another moment. Then his expression hardened. "Admiral, I'm declaring a state of emergency. You have full authority to deal with this threat." Stop that ship before it reaches our core worlds. Yes, Your Majesty. What if it won't stop? Then destroy it. The communication ended, leaving Kekstar alone with his fears. He turned to Commander Velsha. Send a message to the Third Fleet. Tell them to prepare for battle. Have them meet us at coordinates 7 to 7 Alpha. Sir, that's only 6 hours away from here. If that ship maintains its current speed ... I know. We'll barely have time to form up before it arrives. But we have to try. As his officers rushed to carry out his orders, Kekstar stared at the unknown ship on the screen. Something deep in his gut told him that today would change everything. For 1,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been the strongest power in this part of the galaxy. No one had ever challenged them successfully, but this strange ship with its impossible speed and alien design felt different. It felt like the beginning of something new, something that would shake the very foundations of their empire. Admiral, Velsha said softly, what if we can't stop it? Kekstar didn't answer. He couldn't answer, because for the first time in his long military career, he was beginning to think that the mighty Zephyrian Empire might not be as mighty as they had always believed. The unknown ship continued its relentless approach, and with each passing moment, it brought with it the promise of change that would reshape the galaxy forever. Captain Jake Morrison floated in the pilot's seat of the exploration ship Wanderer, trying not to look at the warning lights that covered every surface of the control panel. Red lights blinked everywhere, and the ship's computer kept making worried, beeping sounds that were starting to drive him crazy. Lisa, please tell me you have good news. He called to the back of the ship. Engineer Lisa Parker stuck her head out from behind a torn-open wall panel. Her brown hair was tied back, but pieces had escaped and were floating around her face. Oil stains covered her work uniform. Define good news, she said. Because if good news means we're not going to die in the next few minutes, then yes, I have good news. If good news means I can fix this stupid drive, then no, I have very bad news. Jake sighed and rubbed his tired eyes. 3 days ago, they had been conducting a routine deep space survey mission near the edge of known human space. Their job was simple: test the new experimental Alcubierre drive and map any interesting star systems they found. Everything had been going perfectly until the drive had a catastrophic malfunction. Instead of shutting down like it was supposed to, the drive had locked itself in the on position. Now they were stuck accelerating through unknown space at impossible speeds with no way to stop or turn. Nick, any luck with the communications? Jake asked. Communications officer Nick Davis looked up from his console and shook his head. His usually neat blonde hair was messy from running his hands through it in frustration. The communication array took damage when the drive went crazy, he said. I can receive signals, but I can't send anything back. And Jake, we're getting a lot of strange signals. I think we're not alone out here. Dr. Amy Foster, their mission scientist, floated over to look at Nick's screen. Her red hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her green eyes were bright with curiosity despite their dangerous situation. What kind of signals? She asked. Well, they're definitely artificial, and they're getting stronger. I think someone is trying to talk to us. Jake felt his stomach drop. First contact with alien life was something humanity had dreamed about for centuries. But not like this. Not while they were flying through space like a runaway missile with no way to communicate or control their ship. Can you understand any of it? He asked. Not yet. But the computer is working on it. Give me a few more hours. Suddenly, the ship's proximity alarms started screaming. Jake quickly strapped himself into his seat and checked the forward sensors. Oh no, he whispered. Ahead of them, spread across their path like a wall of metal and light, was the largest fleet of spaceships Jake had ever imagined. There had to be hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They were all different sizes, but even. The smallest ones were bigger than the Wanderer. Are those? Lisa asked, floating up to look over his shoulder. Alien warships, Jake confirmed, and we're flying straight at them. The ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. They had smooth, flowing lines that reminded Jake of sea creatures from Earth's oceans. Their hulls gleamed with a blue-green metal that seemed to shift color as the light hit it. Energy weapons pointed in their direction like the teeth of some massive predator. How long until we reach them? Amy asked. Jake checked his calculations. At our current speed, about 10 minutes. Can we change course? Lisa asked. Not without the drive controls. And I told you, they're completely locked up. The alien fleet began to move. The massive ships repositioned themselves, clearly preparing for battle. Bright lights appeared along their hulls as weapons powered up. They think we're attacking them, Nick said, his voice tight with fear. Can you blame them? Jake replied. From their point of view, we're an unknown ship flying at them at impossible speeds, refusing to communicate. The first weapons fire began a few minutes later. Beams of energy and streams of glowing projectiles filled the space around the Wanderer. But something strange happened. Every shot that should have hit them seemed to bend away at the last moment, sliding off an invisible barrier around their ship. What's happening? Lisa asked. Amy was studying her instruments with growing excitement. It's the Alcubierre field. The malfunction didn't just make us go fast. It created a stable space-time bubble around the ship. We're not actually traveling through normal space anymore. We're riding in our own little pocket of bent reality. Is that why their weapons aren't hurting us? Jake asked. Exactly. The energy beams are following the curved space around us instead of hitting the ship directly. On the screen, Jake watched the alien fleet fall behind them as the Wanderer continued its unstoppable flight. The massive warships tried to follow, but even their fastest vessels couldn't keep up. I don't think they're used to losing, Nick observed. Over the next few hours, Jake and his crew watched in amazement as more and more alien ships joined the chase. The fleet behind them grew from hundreds to thousands of vessels. It was like every military ship in this part of space had been called to stop them. Nick, are you getting more communications? Jake asked. Tons of them. The computer says it's making progress on translation, but there are so many different signals. I think news of us is spreading fast. Amy looked up from her research station. Jake, I'm starting to understand what our drive malfunction did to us. We're not just in a space-time bubble. We're in a bubble that's more advanced than anything these aliens seem to have. Their technology appears to be based on completely different principles than ours. What does that mean? It means we accidentally created something that their science says should be impossible. From their point of view, we're not just an unknown ship. We're a ship that's breaking the laws of physics. Jake stared at the growing fleet behind them. These aliens had technology that was far beyond anything humans had ever built. Their ships were the size of cities, and their weapons could probably destroy planets. But somehow, his small exploration vessel was flying through their space like they weren't even there. How long can this last? He asked. Lisa floated back from her repair work, looking tired but determined. I'm making progress on the drive controls. Give me another day or two, and I might be able to get us some steering back. And the communications? Jake asked Nick. Getting better. I think I'll be able to send simple messages soon. Jake nodded and turned back to watch the alien fleet following them. He hoped they would be able to communicate soon. Because right. Now, it looked like they had accidentally started a war with an entire galactic civilization. And somehow, impossibly, they were winning. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On every world in the Zephyrian Empire, people gathered around their communication screens to watch something that had never happened before. Their mighty fleet was losing, Admiral Kekstar stood. On the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Eternal Glory, watching the impossible scene unfold before him. Behind his ship stretched the largest fleet in Zephyrian history. Over 3,000 vessels filled the space around him, from small scout ships to planet-killing super dreadnoughts. Every weapon in the Empire's arsenal had been brought to bear against a single small alien vessel. And none of it mattered. "Status report," he ordered, his voice tight with frustration. Commander Velsha consulted her tactical display. "The target continues on its original course. Speed unchanged. Our weapons have no effect whatsoever." "What about the new quantum torpedoes?" "Direct hit, sir." The torpedo exploded right on target, but the explosion seemed to slide around the ship instead of damaging it. Kekstar gripped the command rail harder. In 47 years of military service, he had never encountered anything like this. The alien ship seemed to exist in its own private universe, completely immune to everything they threw at it. "Sir," Lieutenant Rixdal called from the communication station, "we are receiving messages from across the Empire. Other species are watching this battle. The Veltari have mobilized their crystal fleets. The Krix hive ships are moving toward our borders." The Admiral felt his stomach drop. For 1,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had kept the peace in this part of the galaxy through strength. Other species respected them because they feared them. But now, everyone was watching the Empire's entire military fail to stop a single small ship. "Are they moving to attack us?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. But intelligence reports suggest they're curious. Some of their leaders are calling this the end of Zephian dominance." Meanwhile, aboard the Wanderer, Dr. Amy Foster was making discoveries that would change everything humanity thought they knew about physics. "This is incredible," she said, floating in front of her research station, with data screens surrounding her like a glowing cloud. "Jake, you need to see this." Captain Jake Morrison pushed himself over to her station, followed by Lisa Parker and Nick Davis. The 4 humans crowded around Amy's displays, trying to understand what she had found. "Our Alcubierre drive malfunction didn't just create a space-time bubble," Amy explained. "It created a stable fold in reality itself. We're not traveling through space anymore. We're traveling through a shortcut that exists outside normal space-time." "Is that why their weapons can't hurt us?" Lisa asked. "Exactly. Their energy beams enter normal space, but we're not in normal space. We're in a fold between dimensions. To them, we must look like we're breaking every law of physics they know." Nick looked up from his communication console. "Speaking of physics, I'm finally getting somewhere with their language. The computer has figured out basic grammar and vocabulary." "Want to hear something interesting?" "What?" Jake asked. "They keep using the same word over and over in their transmissions. The computer translates it as impossible or should not exist." Jake laughed despite their situation. "I guess from their point of view, we really are impossible." "There's more," Nick continued. "I'm picking up transmissions from other species too. Apparently, news of us has spread across this entire part of the galaxy. Everyone is watching to see what happens." "Great," Jake muttered. "No pressure." Lisa floated back to her engineering station, where she had been working on the drive controls for the past 2 days. "I've got good news and bad news," she announced. "Give me the good news first," Jake said. "I think I can regain partial control of the drive. Not enough to stop us, but maybe enough to change our course a little. And the bad news? It's going to take me at least another day to make it work. And even then, we'll still be stuck going way too fast." Amy looked up from her research. "Actually, that might not be such a bad thing." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "I've been studying the alien fleet's formation and their pursuit patterns. They're not trying to destroy us anymore. They're trying to understand us. Look at how they're positioning their ships." Jake studied the tactical display. Amy was right. The alien fleet was no longer in an attack formation. Instead, they had spread out in a wide observation pattern, keeping pace with the Wanderer, but not threatening it. They're studying us, he realized. And we're studying them, Amy confirmed. Jake, do you understand what this means? We've accidentally made first contact with an entire galactic civilization. And we did it in the most human way possible. What do you mean? We broke their rules. We did something their science says is impossible. And instead of being destroyed by it, we're showing them that maybe their rules aren't as absolute as they thought. Over the next several hours, the chase continued through multiple star systems. Word of the impossible human ship spread further and further across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, billions of beings watched as the mighty Zephyrian Empire struggled with something completely beyond their understanding. On the crystal world, of Veltar, the living crystal beings that made up the Veltari civilization gathered in their great halls to discuss what this meant for the balance of power in the galaxy. In the dark space between stars, the hive mind of the Crix sent scout ships to observe the chase. For the first time in centuries, they saw the Zephyrians as something less than unstoppable, and in the energy fields of the gas giant Lumina, beings of pure energy called the Luminants, began to consider whether it might be time to reclaim worlds they had lost to Zephyrian expansion long ago. But aboard the flagship Eternal Glory, Admiral Kekstar was beginning to understand something that would change his entire worldview. Commander Velsha, he said quietly, I want you to analyze that ship's course very carefully. Sir, look at its trajectory. Really look at it. If you were flying a ship through unknown space with no way to control it, what course would you take? Velsha studied the tactical display for several minutes. Then her eyes widened. Sir, they're not trying to attack anything. They're trying to avoid hitting our populated worlds. Exactly. Every time their course takes them near a planet or space station, they seem to adjust slightly to miss it. This isn't an invasion. It's an accident. But how can they adjust their course if they have no control? Maybe they're getting some control back. Or maybe they never lost as much control as we thought. Kekstar paused, considering. Commander, what if we've been looking at this all wrong? What if they're not enemies at all? Before Velsha could answer, Lieutenant Riksdal called out from his station. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien vessel. It's very weak, but it's definitely artificial. Kekstar felt his heart race. Can you understand it? It's very basic, sir. But I think they're trying to say, help. For the first time since this crisis began, Admiral Kekstar smiled. Maybe there was a way to end this without anyone getting hurt after all. Emperor Zixthil paced back and forth in his private chamber, his golden robes trailing behind him as he moved. Through the massive windows of his palace, he could see the night sky of Zephyr Prime. Somewhere up there, an impossible alien ship was approaching his world, and his entire military was powerless to stop it. Your Majesty, his aide announced, Admiral Kekstar is requesting immediate communication. Put him through, the Emperor ordered. The holographic image of Admiral Kekstar appeared in the center of the room. The old military commander looked, tired but hopeful. Your Majesty, I have important news. The alien vessel has made contact. The Emperor stopped pacing. What kind of contact? They sent a message, sir. Very simple, but clear. They're asking for help. Help? I thought they were invading us. No, Your Majesty. I believe this has all been a terrible misunderstanding. The ship appears to be in distress. My xenorchaeologist, Dr. Rindal, has been studying their flight pattern. She believes they're not attacking us. They're trying not to hit our worlds. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. In his 40 years of rule, he had built the Zephyrian Empire into the strongest power in the galaxy through military might and careful diplomacy. But this situation was unlike anything he had ever faced. Can we communicate with them properly? He asked. We're working on it, sir. Dr. Rindle believes she can establish basic communication within the next few hours. Do it, and Admiral ... call off the attack. If they're truly in distress, we should help them, not shoot at them. Aboard the Wanderer, Nick Davis was having the breakthrough of his life. For 3 days, he had been working with the ship's computer to decode the alien transmissions. Now, finally, he was beginning to understand their language. Jake, he called excitedly, I think I've got it. Captain Jake Morrison quickly floated over to Nick's station, followed by the rest of the crew. On the screen was a message in both alien symbols and English translation. What does it say? Jake asked. It's from someone called Admiral Kekstar. He says they want to help us. He's asking if we're in trouble and if there's anything they can do. Lisa Parker laughed with relief. Finally, someone who understands we're not trying to attack them. Can you send a message back? Jake asked. I think so. The computer has learned enough of their language to send simple replies. Good. Tell them we're experiencing a mechanical failure and we can't control our ship. Ask them if they know anything about Alcubierre drives. Nick typed the message into the computer and sent it. A few minutes later, a reply came back. They say they've never heard of Alcubierre drives, but they have their best scientists working on the problem. And Jake, and want to invite us to land on their world? Land? Amy Foster looked up from her research station. But we can't stop. Actually, Lisa said, climbing out from behind another wall panel, I might have some good news about that. I've been able to restore partial control to the drive. I can't stop us, but I can slow us down. A lot? Jake felt hope for the first. Time in days. How much can you slow us down? Enough to enter orbit around a planet instead of flying past it. If their people can help us from the ground, we might be able to figure out how to land safely. Over the next few hours, communication between the Wanderer and the Zephyrian fleet improved rapidly. Dr. Rindle, the Empire's leading expert on ancient technologies, worked with Nick to establish better translation protocols. What she learned amazed her. Admiral, she reported to Kekstar, their technology is completely different from ours. They're using principles of physics that we consider theoretical at best. According to our science, what they're doing should be impossible. But they're doing it anyway, Kekstar observed. Yes, sir. And that's what makes them so remarkable. They've independently developed space travel using methods we never considered. Their ship isn't just fast. It's operating on a completely different level of reality. Meanwhile, Dr. Amy Foster was having similar revelations about alien technology. As she studied the Zephyrian ships through the Wanderer's sensors, she realized that their technology was far more advanced than anything humans had ever built. But it was also completely different. They're using quantum manipulation and gravitational control, she explained to her crewmates. Their ships don't push themselves through space. They actually bend space around themselves to move. Is that better than our way? Jake asked. Not better, just different. We're using space-time manipulation, while they're using quantum gravitational manipulation. Both methods work, but they operate on completely different principles. So we're both right, Lisa asked. Exactly. We've each developed space travel in ways the other species never thought of. It's like, imagine two different artists painting the same scene using completely different techniques. Both paintings are beautiful, but they look nothing alike. As the Wanderer approached the Zephyrian capital system, both sides prepared for the first peaceful meeting between humans and the galactic community. Admiral Kekstar ordered his entire fleet to stand down and take defensive positions around the planet. He wanted to make it clear that the humans were welcome, not threatened. On the surface of Zephyr Prime, millions of Zephyrians gathered to watch the approaching human ship. For the first time in their history, they were about to meet. Aliens who are not trying to conquer them or be conquered. "Nick," Jake said as they entered the planet's outer atmosphere, "send them another message. Tell them we're grateful for their help, and we're looking forward to meeting them." The reply came back quickly. "Admiral Kextar says welcome to Zephyr Prime. He says this is the beginning of a new age for both our peoples. Lisa successfully slowed the Wanderer enough to enter a stable orbit around the planet. For the first time in days, the ship was no longer accelerating out of control. We did it," Jake said, hardly believing it was true. "We actually survived." "More than survived," Amy added, looking at all the data they had collected. "We've made first contact with an entire galactic civilization, and we did it by accident." "The best kind of discovery," Nick laughed. But the real surprise was yet to come. As communication with the surface improved, Dr. Rindle shared more information about the galaxy they had stumbled into. "There are dozens of intelligent species in this part of space," she explained through the communication link. "The Zephyrian Empire is just one of many civilizations. You have entered a galaxy full of wonders." Jake looked at his small crew of 4 humans in their tiny exploration ship. A few days ago, they had thought they were alone in the universe. Now they were about to land on an alien world and meet beings from across the galaxy. "Are you ready for this?" he asked his crew. "Are we ever?" Amy replied with a grin. "But I think that's what makes us human. We'll figure it out as we go." As the Wanderer began its descent toward the surface of Zephyr Prime, Jake couldn't help but smile. Their mission had been to explore the unknown and make discoveries. They had certainly done that, though not in any way they had expected. Behind them, the largest fleet in galactic history followed them down, no longer as enemies, but as escorts welcoming Earth's first ambassadors to the stars. The landing pad on Zephyr Prime was unlike anything the humans had ever imagined. Thousands of Zephyrians had gathered to watch the Wanderer touch down, their blue-scaled faces filled with curiosity and wonder. The ship settled onto the metal platform with a soft thud, and for the first time in 5 days, the engines finally went silent. Captain Jake Morrison took a deep breath and looked at his crew. Lisa Parker had cleaned the oil off her hands and put on a fresh uniform. Nick Davis was checking his translation equipment one last time. Dr. Amy Foster clutched a data pad containing all their scientific discoveries, her eyes bright with excitement. "Well," Jake said, "I guess this is it. Ready to make history?" "As ready as we'll ever be," Amy replied. The airlock hissed open, and Jake stepped out first. The gravity on Zephyr Prime was slightly lighter than Earth's, making him feel like he was bouncing with each step. The air smelled different too, with a faint metallic scent that reminded him of rain. Admiral Kextar was waiting for them at the bottom of the landing ramp. The tall, blue-scaled Zephyrian wore a formal military uniform covered in decorations that Jake didn't recognize. But his yellow eyes were kind, and when he saw the humans, he smiled in a way that looked remarkably familiar despite his alien features. "Captain Morrison," Kextar said in carefully pronounced English, "welcome to Zephyr Prime. I am Admiral Kextar of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy." "Thank you, Admiral," Jake replied. "I'm sorry for all the trouble we caused. We really weren't trying to invade anyone." Kextar laughed, a sound like water flowing over stones. "We figured that out eventually, though I must admit you gave us quite a scare." Behind the Admiral stood Dr. Rindle, the xenorchaeologist who had helped establish communication. She was smaller than Kextar, with silver scales that shimmered in the light of the alien sun. "Dr. Foster," she said, addressing Amy directly, "I have been studying your ship's energy readings. Your Alcubierre drive technology is remarkable. We would very much like to learn more about it. And we'd love to learn about your gravitational manipulation systems," Amy replied enthusiastically. "From what I've seen, Your technology could revolutionize space travel. Perhaps we can help each other, Dr. Rindell suggested. Over the next several days, the humans found themselves at the center of a scientific and diplomatic revolution. Dr. Amy Foster worked closely with Zephyrian scientists, sharing human theories about space-time manipulation while learning about quantum gravitational control, systems that had powered the Empire for centuries. The collaboration produced amazing results. Within a week, they had developed theoretical improvements to both technologies that neither species could have achieved alone. It's incredible, Amy explained to Jake as they walked through the Zephyrian capital city. Their approach to physics is completely different from ours, but when you combine the two methods, you get possibilities that neither of us imagined. Meanwhile, Lisa Parker was working with Zephyrian engineers to repair the Wanderer's drive system. But instead of just fixing the malfunction, they were upgrading the entire ship with hybrid human Zephyrian technology. The new drive will be safer and more controllable, she told Jake. But it will also be faster and more efficient than anything either of our species has built before. Nick Davis had perhaps the most important job of all. Working with linguists from across the Empire, he was developing translation protocols that would allow humans to communicate with dozens of different alien species. The galaxy is huge, Jake, he said one evening as they sat in their guest quarters. There are hundreds of intelligent species out there. The Zephyrians are just one empire among many. Are the others friendly? Jake asked. Most of them seem curious about us. Apparently, our arrival has changed the balance of power in this part of space. Everyone wants to know what humans are capable of. That curiosity led to the most important meeting of all. A week after their landing, Emperor Zixthel himself requested a private audience with the human crew. The Emperor's palace was a massive structure that seemed to grow out of the planet's surface like a crystal formation. Emperor Zixthel met them in a simple room with large windows that looked out over the capital city. Captain Morrison, the Emperor said, your arrival has changed everything. For 1,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire has maintained peace in this sector through military strength. But you have shown us that there are other forms of power. Your Majesty, Jake replied, we never intended to challenge anyone. We were just exploring, I know. And that is what makes your achievement so remarkable. You discovered new possibilities not through conquest, but through curiosity and ingenuity. The Emperor stood and walked to the window. I have been thinking about the future. The galaxy is vast, with room for many different approaches to civilization. Perhaps it is time for the Zephyrian Empire to focus less on military expansion and more on scientific exploration. What do you mean? Amy asked. I mean, Dr. Foster, that I would like to propose an alliance. Not a military alliance, but a scientific and cultural one. Your people have shown us new ways to think about the universe. In return, we can show you the wonders of galactic civilization. Jake looked at his crew. This was far beyond anything they had been authorized to negotiate. They were just an exploration team, not diplomats. Your Majesty, he said carefully, we're honored by your offer. But we would need to return to Earth and discuss this with our government. Of course, the Emperor replied. And when you do, you will not go alone. 3 weeks later, the Wanderer lifted off from Zephyr Prime. But this time, they were not alone. A small Zephyrian diplomatic vessel, the Swift Current, flew alongside them. Admiral Kekstar himself led the alien delegation, accompanied by Dr. Rindell and several other scientists. And diplomats thought the journey back to Earth took only 2 days with the new hybrid drive system. As they approached the solar system, Jake couldn't help but feel nervous. How would Earth react to humanity's first contact with alien life? He got his answer when they reached Earth's outer sensor range. A massive fleet of human ships was waiting for them, led by the flagship Constitution. Admiral Susan Martinez, the head of Earth's Deep Space Command, was aboard. Captain Morrison, Admiral Martinez said over the communication link, "Welcome home. We've been tracking your approach for weeks. I take it your mission was successful?" Jake looked at the alien ship flying next to them and the amazing technology that now powered his vessel. "Yes, ma'am. Very successful. The landing at Earth's primary spaceport was unlike anything in human history. Millions of people gathered to watch the first alien visitors set foot on Earth. Admiral Kekstar emerged from his ship with dignity and grace, his blue scales shimmering in Earth's sunlight. "People of Earth," he said in perfectly translated English, "I bring greetings from the Zephyrian Empire and the many civilizations of the galaxy. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in the history of both our peoples." Over the following months, everything changed. Dr. Amy Foster found herself leading a new department at NASA focused on alien technology integration. Lisa Parker became the chief engineer for humanity's first fleet of interstellar ships. Nick Davis established Earth's first xenolinguistics program. And Jake Morrison? He was given command of humanity's first diplomatic mission to the galactic community. His orders were simple: explore, learn, and build friendships among the stars. But the real changes were just beginning. News of humanity's unique approach to physics spread throughout the galaxy. Other species began to request meetings with the strange aliens who had accidentally humbled the Zephyrian Empire. The crystalline Valtari sent a delegation to study human mineral processing techniques. The hive-minded Cricks were fascinated by human individuality and creativity. The energy beings called the Luminants wanted to understand how physical creatures could manipulate space-time so effectively. Within a year, Earth had become a center of galactic scientific exchange. Human cities hosted alien researchers, while human scientists traveled to distant worlds to share knowledge and learn new wonders. Admiral Kekstar established a permanent embassy on Earth, becoming humanity's first alien friend and ambassador. He often told the story of the impossible human ship that had changed everything. "They broke our rules," he would say with a laugh. "They did things our science said were impossible. And in doing so, they showed us that the universe is far more wonderful and surprising than we had ever imagined." Dr. Amy Foster, now Earth's leading expert on galactic physics, put it differently in her reports to the United Nations. "We didn't just make first contact," she wrote. "We accidentally demonstrated that there are always new ways to solve old problems. In a galaxy full of ancient civilizations, humanity brought something fresh, the willingness to try the impossible." The Wanderer itself was eventually retired to the Smithsonian Museum, where it became the most visited exhibit in human history. A small plaque near the entrance told the story of 4 explorers who set out to map unknown space and ended up mapping humanity's place among the stars. But for Jake Morrison, the real reward wasn't fame or recognition. It was the sight of children playing with young Zephyrians in Earth's parks, and the knowledge that his accidental diplomatic mission had opened infinite possibilities for both species. The universe, it turned out, was vast enough for